Hello everyone and welcome back for another stream. It is Wednesday the 24th of February and I had to read that off my computer because I don't remember dates. It is 1 p.m. We are here on a scheduled time. No, I don't really know what's going on either. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Just a little bit of housekeeping first of all. I have made some improvements to the layout of things and to the sound. So hopefully the caption should be better at picking me up. I should sound better. Things should be more balanced. But if there's any problems as we go through the stream, then please do let me know. I don't mind you telling me that something is wrong. I'd much rather know because I can't tell from here. So yeah. So if that happens, then just let me know. But hello, it's lovely to see you again. It feels like a long time since Friday, because you have like the whole weekend and then like the week thus far. So it feels like quite a lot. As you can hopefully tell, I'm feeling a lot better. I was in a pain flare like over the weekend and at the start of the week, but it's very much settled down today. And there's been some good news this week about some of my treatment. The medication that I was given to start on in January, like really early in January, but then still hadn't like gotten through to my GP, has now gone through to my GP, so I'll get to start that, and hopefully that will help a bit more as well. And I've been going to my Tai Chi classes again, and I'm finding I really enjoy Tai Chi as a form of movement. So I had, like a few weeks ago, I had my first class, and some of the movements made me cry because they were so painful. Like just doing this with my ankle, I think I talked about that at the time. But I got through the whole class this time, and I did the whole thing. And I found that we got into some actual like proper like flows, and I really enjoyed them. But I'm finding that the format of the class is a bit of a problem for me. It's very, very chatty, so it's really bad for my anxiety. But it's also it's like an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes. I don't know what length it's actually meant to be, because it's not been the same each time. But it doesn't start until 10 or 15 minutes in because people are talking so much, and then there's a break not that long after, and I'm sort of like, I'm glad I'm not paying for it, because if I was paying for it, I'd complain. Yeah, so it's, I don't know, I'm going to give it a few more weeks, but it might be one of those things where what I end up doing is practicing it, but privately using YouTube videos or online courses or something like that, where it's actually you doing the thing, not 15 minutes of people chatting. They're lovely people, and it's I don't begrudge them it, but it's not what I want from. I want to feel like I'm using my time productively, and that time doesn't give me anything. If anything, it just takes away from me because it causes me such anxiety. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I did go and I did do all of it, and I've also been, I hesitate to call it weightlifting because what I'm actually doing is lifting just the bars for our dumbbells because the bars are so heavy. But I've been doing that a bit as well because when I saw a consultant, when I got diagnosed, she said because I'm hypermobile as well, she thinks strength training will be more beneficial to me than any kind of flexibility stuff. So I've still been doing yoga a bit as well as I'm able to. I want to do it more. I found a YouTube channel that's specifically for people with chronic pain. So it's yoga, rather than like a few sessions being about chronic pain. It's like the whole thing is. Sorry, I hit the microphone there. So I'm gonna try that and see if that works. Hi T. but yeah, so that was my yesterday, was those things. I also yesterday did some really delicious organising of things in Notion, which I'll show you in a minute. And on Monday I did my reading for my reading group. I went to my reading group. It was quite interesting. It was one of those things where it's not really relevant to my research at all, but it was still nice and useful to just be exposed to other ideas and other ways of thinking. It was hard because so most of the time we don't have guest speakers in my reading group, and occasionally we get guest speakers, which can be like people who are normally in the reading group just presenting their work. But whenever that happens, you tend to get a lot more people in who aren't part of like the core group, as it were. And so there were a lot more people there, and I ended up not feeling able to put my camera on. I think also partly because I was in the pain flare at that point, so it's hard to want to be seen when you're sitting there like bundled up in a heated blanket and you can't move your limbs very well. It's not like, you know, I'm okay being on camera today, but I definitely was having a day where I didn't want to be. But I got it done and I did it, and I also then went and did the reading techniques workshop that I signed up for like a month ago and got through a month ago, and then never did. But I have done it now. I've got one bit left, which is to be done like practicing really critical close reading on something that's for your research. So I've saved that one. I'm going to do that one tomorrow. Yeah, so I did that as well, and it was really useful. It was really lovely, and it helped a lot with in fact I'll show you the Notion, because it helped me a lot with how I then sorted things here. So if I bring you over to here, and if you're new to the stream, by the way, what tends to happen is we'll have like half an hour of me catching you up on everything that's happened in the past few days with my research, because obviously I don't stream 100% of what I do, and then I will go into the work we're doing today, which is writing up some of the stuff. Sorry if you heard my phone. Yeah, it's writing up some of the stuff that I've been researching today. So this is my reading list. Now, if you saw my reading list before, it looked a lot more like this, except it wasn't sorted by category like this. It was sorted by done and to do. So it was just like a mess, basically. And you can see that this is still a bit messy. I have this option of looking at things so that I can just compare. Is there really only one thing in graphic novels? That doesn't seem right. Oh, it's because I've read the other ones. So this is only showing things I haven't yet read, and it's showing them by the general category. So some of them are the narrative forms I'm working on. So like here we've got video games, we've got genre fiction, but then there's also general medical humanities things, disability studies, and intersectionality focus studies, which I'm reading to help with my methodology, primary sources, and then there's graphic novels and visual and interactive novels, which are some of my other forms. But looking at it in the table view is a lot better, because then you can see the information a bit more clearly. So I now have the status set up differently, and this is partly based on that reading techniques workshop. So this is all stuff that I know is relevant, and it's marked as assess because I need to like assess what kind of reading I need to do on it. So basically I need to go in and scan, so look at the summaries, the abstracts, depending on what format it's in, the chapter list if it's a book, that sort of thing, and work out in what way I then need to read it. So whether I need to devote time to like reading it really closely, or to just read it a bit more quickly. And you can see if I go right down to the bottom, there's some here that I already know are close reading. These are all things that I've already read. If I hang on, if I move myself just over here slightly so you can actually see them all. So The Wounded Storyteller, here is the Arthur Frank book that I'm critiquing effectively with my thesis and attempting to prove wrong. Disability Visibility is an amazing collection of essays by disabled writers. It's just amazing, and it's so good that I just sort of read it all in one go and then went, oh, I wanted to read this critically. I wanted to take notes on this and I didn't because I got so drawn in. And then there's a couple of articles here, both of which I've read, and I want to take a better look at in terms of informing how my research takes place in relation to mental health in not the Western world, basically. So I know that the term global north is used a lot, but I also know there's like some dispute around the term global north, so I'm never sure of the right words to use, and that's one of the things I want to learn. And I know that these articles discuss a bit more. So that's the sort of thing that's there where it's like, oh, I've really got to stop punching my microphone. I'm so sorry. The sort of thing where it's like my wider like research knowledge and education. I'm working on bioinformatics studies and always interested in what others in the constellation of health info folks are doing. Awesome. Yeah, so I'm technically doing an English PhD, but only because my actual field, which is medical humanities, doesn't offer there isn't a medical humanities degree. Oh no, it's all right. I got what you meant. So yeah, I'm in the weird, and basically everyone I know who's doing a medical humanities PhD or studying the medical humanities is in the same position where we're like in a different school. So I'm in the School of English. I know people who are sort of in philosophy or yeah, definitely. There's and interestingly, one of the so what I'm looking at is how different narrative styles and narrative forms, by which I mean like types of text, types of media, convey the experience of living with mental illness. So specifically giving the reader or the viewer or the player, depending on what format it is, the experience of embodied mental illness. And it's literally making that experience accessible. And that's why I'm looking at non-normative forms like video games, like visual and interactive novels, like graphic novels, because they have a lot of power to convey the embodied experience in a more accessible way. It's much easier to publish even a visual novel than it is to publish a traditional book like a memoir or something like that. So yeah, that's definitely like related to what I'm doing. But yeah, so this is my new reading list. It's still terrifyingly long. It got longer after I sorted it because I added these articles in today. No, that's all right. I'm very happy to. So one of the reasons I'm doing this is that I find it really good practice and really good for me processing in my mind what my thesis is, to talk about it, because the more I explain it, the better I get at explaining it, basically, and the more concisely I can explain it. Because when I first started doing this, it took me like 5 minutes to explain what I was researching, and now I can do it in a few sentences. But yeah, so then there is this, which is a bit empty, a bit empty right now. So what I'm doing right now, for those of you who are newer, is I am working on like an overview statement for my thesis. Because of the nature of what I'm doing, there are ways in which going straight in with a standard literature review doesn't work for me. because a lot of what I'm looking at has not been researched before, or has been researched in like a sort of peripheral way rather than in the angle I'm taking with it. For example, there's lots of research into video games, there's research into graphic novels, there's research into mental illness within those things, but not a vast amount of like specifically how the embodied experience is conveyed, and like questions of authenticity and that sort of thing. So in order to work out like what the structure of my thesis is going to be, like how I want to order it, because I have no clue still. Well, I'm starting to have more ideas, we're getting there. And in order to be able to like communicate to myself and to my supervisory team exactly what it is I'm trying to do, I'm writing like an initial statement of between, and in fact if I click on this you can see a bit more detail. So it's between 3,000 and 5,000 words. It's currently at 2,000, I think. Is it 2,000? 2,400. So it's probably not going to be 5,000 words, but unless I suddenly write like 2,000 words on visual interactive novels today, that seems unlikely. So yeah, and it's basically just explaining everything, but also in a way that will help me identify the different themes linking them. I've been able to do that a lot more already. We've worked out that immersion is a really strong theme, interactivity is a really strong theme, the multi-sensory nature of the forms is really important. Weirdly, discovered that one from graphic novels. You wouldn't have expected to look at graphic novels and go, oh yeah, they're definitely including sound in there. Yeah, so VR is something I need to look into as well. It's not something I'm as familiar with, and it's not something I've dived into yet. When I wrote up video games, I avoided it because I know I will have to do a lot of research to learn more about it, because it's not something I'm familiar with. It is definitely something I will do when I get to that section of the thesis. But for this overview, I didn't want to like fall in that rabbit hole and get stuck and never get out of it. So yeah, what we have left is visual and interactive novels, which we're going to do today, and I can tick these two off because I did those before I came here. I'll talk about that in a minute. So it's just the write-up left to do. Then we have the same thing over again for genre fiction, which is sci-fi and fantasy mostly. It does also kind of include horror, but horror is a massive rabbit hole when it comes to mental illness, because there are so many bad representations of mental illness in horror. You'd have trouble thinking of a horror film where the villain isn't, if it's like a person, where the villain is not said to be mentally ill, and it is awful, it's really bad. So I'm gonna mention that when I write it up, but I don't know how much I'll then end up going into it. I kind of feel like I need to, in order to show, because I want to show how these things are done badly as well as how they're done well, because one of my hypotheses is that there is one very simple way to do these things correctly, and that is for them to be written, produced, directed by whatever word is relevant for the form, by someone with experience of that illness. Mania is one of the things shown really badly in media, and psychosis is shown terribly, especially in horror. Last week we were writing up the video game section, and I did some research into the game Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, which is a really good representation of psychosis, and was produced by and in conjunction with people who experience psychosis and other psychiatric professionals. So you can see how much of a difference that made from that game. But yeah, I'm very much operating on the idea that someone who doesn't have this embodied experience cannot authentically represent this embodied experience because it's not their experience, right? They don't see the world in that way. And it's with something like mental illness, especially, or with any chronic illness really, it's all encompassing as a part of your experience. So you can't, you can't really put yourself in those shoes. That's what the game is aiming to let people do, right? Do I like Shrek video games? That's a strange question. But yeah, so we'll do, the plan is, so you can see I put a date on this. I'd been avoiding doing this for a long time because I've been stressing about not doing well enough. And I'm laughing about this because some of the things that my anxiety makes me think are utterly fucking ridiculous. Like, I talked about this on Friday, but I asked my mentor last week. So I have a mentor who helps me manage my disability with studying, basically. And I said to her, because tomorrow I have my induction review with my whole supervisory team. It's not formal. It's not like a thing I have to pass at all. But I said to my mentor, well, I've been thinking about it, and I think the worst case scenario is that they ask me to go part-time. I don't think they're going to kick me off the PhD. Which is ridiculous. Because it's not something I have to pass. They're definitely not going to say I'm not doing this fast enough. But I've been concerned that I'm not doing this fast enough. Even though when I talked to my supervisor, we agreed that it takes as long as it takes. Outlines are helpful until I have to show it to someone. Yeah, the thing is that I need, one of the things I find, so I have trauma-based mental illness, and I have fibromyalgia as well, which is a chronic pain condition. And it turns out that starting a PhD doesn't cure any of that. And you actually still have to have all of the chronic illness and disability alongside the PhD, which really this was falsely advertised to me. I was supposed to get into the thing I'd wanted my whole life, and then everything was supposed to be perfect. Sarcasm detected. So it's not been very easy, and it's been really hard, and that's one of the reasons that I stream this, is to show people that it's not that simple. It is difficult, but that you can still do it. I've had a couple of breakthroughs in my therapy in the past couple of past couple of weeks, but I have therapy every other week, so that's I guess the past month. Some of which are kind of not positive. Like I've recognized that it's great, but one of the things is that I've recognized that I still don't fundamentally believe I have a right to exist. I still don't think deep down that I have anything to give to the world and that the world wants me present. I know logically that this is bullshit, by the way. And I do have moments where I'm able to break through that, but I think I thought I was further with that than I actually am. But it's really transformative to realize that I'm not, because now I know that's a problem and I can look to start addressing it, and it's underlying a lot of other things that are going on. It's to do partly with unprocessed trauma. So it's been a lot's going on. There's a lot going on, and I'm trying to do a PhD at the same time. So I haven't given myself deadlines thus far. However, now that I'm near the end of it, I have given myself a deadline, because I'm at the point now where I'm like, no, I'm almost finished. I can finish this and then I can move on. Onto the next thing, and I think I'm ready to. I've got to stop hitting the microphone. I'm so sorry. The microphone is just here. You can't see it because I've cropped it out, but I keep gesticulating this way and hitting it. Yeah, therapy. You're supposed to go into therapy and everything's supposed to be great, and actually, it's really hard. I've been in various different forms of therapy for. Oh God, how old am I? I started therapy when I was 17, and I'm 33, so a while. 17 years? It's 17 years this autumn. And it doesn't get any easier. I can tell you that now. But yeah, so I put a deadline on this to help me. And I'm okay with there being a deadline on this now because I think it will help me for this to be done. So as you can see, that deadline, this is the day I started my PhD, the 25th of January. It's when I had my first supervision and got this assignment, as it were. I need to not call it an assignment because that sounds like a thing that's marked. And I've put the end of next week because today we're going to write up visual and interactive novels. I'm not likely to get anything else written up this week because the rest of this week is super busy. I'll talk about that a bit later on, like at the end when I then talk about what I'm going to do next week. So my hope by the end of this week is that we'll have this one written up, which we will do because we're doing that today. And that I've done the research for genre fiction, because then next week I can do the write-up and then I can do artist books. And I think that's fine. I will get all of that done. That's not too fast. It's a realistic pace. And then the next goal that I have after that, so I've put this into now, next and done. I may end up adjusting this as I go forward. All of this I may end up adjusting. With the reading list, I suspect I'll add more tags into the status field. So like once I've assessed things and know that I need to just get a specific piece of information out or go into detail, I can then put that in there. Structuring my thesis. In order to start working on my thesis, I need to know what the fuck my chapters are. And right now I don't know, because there are multiple ways I could do it, right? I could do it by going through each narrative form. So I could have a chapter on graphic novels, a chapter on video games, and so forth. However, I don't think that is the best option because a lot of my narrative forms have crossover. There is crossover between visual and interactive novels and video games. There is crossover between fan fiction and genre fiction. There's crossover between graphic novels and visual novels. So I think if I were to separate them too much, it would weaken my arguments, because part of it is being able to compare these different texts as well. So that means that I'm probably looking at structuring it thematically. I've also talked about structuring it as a slow increasing deviation from the norm. So like having genre fiction first of all, because it is just a form of linear fiction, and then sort of going into fan fiction, into graphic novels, into visual novels, into video games, into role-playing games, as we get further and further from like a linear narrative structure, and from a like the more agency you get, the further we get. And this is what I'm leaning towards right now. But then there's also the option of doing it thematically and going, let's talk about immersion, let's talk about fuck are my themes? I just talked about them like 10 minutes ago. Multi-sensory nature of things, the interactiveness of things, that sort of crosses over with immersion. And so yeah, it's a thing to think about. But what will happen is, so I'll finish my initial write-up. I will then arrange a meeting with my supervisor. So I have two supervisors. I have a primary supervisor and a secondary supervisor. My primary supervisor is, as you might suspect from the name, the one who works with me directly most of the time. My secondary supervisor is there to offer additional knowledge, and to be a wider part of my supervisory team. She's a backup were anything to happen to my primary supervisor, be it something bad or just her leaving and going to a different university, for example. Anything like that. It's a good system. So I'll book an appointment with my primary supervisor and send her that write-up. She will read that write-up and then we will talk about it together, because a lot of it is to educate her on some of the forms I'm using that she's not familiar with, and like their ideas and talking points. And from there, we can then talk about what ideas she has for structuring it as well, because she has more experience than me at writing a thesis. So that will be the thing I will do the week after that. That will make that week a little bit gentler as well, which I think is good. I think that's a good idea after effectively handing in a big piece of work. I think it's a good thing to have a slightly slower week. We're also approaching a few months that I know are going to be really hard for me. I hope you can't hear my phone going off. If you can hear my phone going off, that noise is from a table story show. And it is the sound of a tiny fey creature. Yeah, it's fantastic. 1 second, I'm trying to take my jumper off because I'm boiling. In 5 minutes, I'm going to be freezing and I'm going to have to put my jumper back on. It's a fibro thing. Being bad with temperature, apparently. Yeah, I've had the Star Trek comm noise before as well. Yeah, so that's basically the plan. And the idea is to get more of a plan generally, because the balance between not giving myself too strict schedules and deadlines that I then won't be able to meet, because if I have a really strict schedule and then I have a flare, I just panic because suddenly the schedule's gone out the window. But I need to be able to reassure myself that I'm on track. I need to know that I'm on track. If I go off track, I need to know that so I can find ways to deal with it. So that's the idea, and that's what I'm going for, is not at 1 p.m. on blah, I will do this. I realise I'm here doing a scheduled thing. Obviously some things need to be scheduled. One cannot avoid the scheduling of meetings. But not like I will read this particular thing at this time for this many minutes. That's not going to work for me. I'm not going to try and do that. But knowing that, for example, for the next few months, I'm going to be looking at graphic novels. And that sort of level that is what I'm talking about. And by the end of that, I'm going to have this many words written up. That's the sort of thing I'm aiming for. And that, to be fair, is the sort of thing that my reviews are structured around. Because I have this induction review tomorrow. Oh god, it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow. I'm really scared. Even though my supervisors are lovely. I will be able to do it. It will be fine. I have mentoring beforehand, and my mentor has agreed that if I just need to sit there and nervously babble for an hour, that's fine. Or she can tell me distracting stories just so I calm down a bit. But yeah, so the next review after that is 8 months in, and they want me to have 10,000 words written by then. Which is basically nothing, given that my thesis has to be 100,000 words or thereabouts, and I've got 3 years to do it. You don't need to be particularly good at maths to work out that doesn't quite compute. And I look forward to doing 40,000 words in years 2 and 3 to make up for it. 45,000, in fact. My god. But yeah, speaking of words, so I've got a workshop that I'm going to at 3. So we do have a time limit today, but we don't usually run that long anyway. So we should be fine. But I will take you over to some actual work. Hello, I'm over here now. So welcome to Scrivener. If you've been here before, you'll be aware that I am writing my thesis on Scrivener. It is just a really nice way to organise things. I hate Microsoft Word. I've hated Microsoft Word for a very long time. I've avoided Microsoft Word as much as possible. However, I have found in the past, so I tend to use Google Docs. I have found in the past that Google Docs on something as big as my thesis is going to become? Good English. I have multiple degrees in English, guys. I found that Google Docs have trouble when you are over a certain number of words. I've written multiple novels in Google Docs, and it got to the point with my novels where I would open the page and then walk away and do something else for 10 minutes because that's how long it took to load. Whereas Scrivener is much better for that sort of thing, partly because it's a program, not a web app. So yeah, that's why we're doing things in here. Hi Zero Calorie, welcome. Yeah, and like it's a tea party in chat today. Yeah, I'm automatically backing up everything in Scrivener because I have it obviously on this computer. I also have it on my laptop because I open it on my laptop sometimes. It's then also in my Google Drive. Scrivener iterates backups, so if anything were ever to go wrong, it's going to be somewhere. And I also will then periodically back it up somewhere else as well, just out of paranoia, really. But yeah, so welcome to my write-up. These highlights are for references that I need to put in later. This doesn't need to be formally referenced, but I am gonna make it clearer where everything's from because I've not done that thus far. I'm not going to scroll down because if you've been here before, you'll know that there are some spoilers for different media in the lower ones, which I have now moved so that there's no risk of me scrolling down to them, whereas previously I had them right next to me where I was typing, and that was awkward. There's also some more sensitive discussion in the lower parts than there is in the higher parts, but there are in this write-up some discussions of sensitive topics such as suicide or self-harm, or other symptoms of mental illness. So just be aware of that if you're going to read the text on the screen. You're very welcome to read it, that's why it's there. Just be aware that that's a thing that's present. And there are actually spoilers for solutions and other problems on the screen, I'm now realising, but there's going to be spoilers here because we're talking about the content of different texts. But yeah. And now we wait for my adrenaline to go because I've just talked solidly for 40 minutes. This is why I can't stream for long periods of time, is because it's really intense for me. Yeah, breathe. I keep finding myself out of breath whilst I'm talking, which is not ideal. Okay, so as I mentioned, I did earlier the research for writing up this section, and that was because I'm hesitant. I've talked about this before. I'm hesitant to do any searches for things on the stream because when I'm searching for things, I don't know what's going to come out of that search. I don't know what triggers it's going to have in it. It could trigger me, which is something I don't want to happen on stream. Obviously, something I don't want to happen generally, but I'm aware by the nature of my research that is a risk that is included. And I can't control what images are going to come up, and that sort of thing, especially with visual novels, a large number of which are pornographic. Not, as it happens, a lot of the ones about mental illness. But that there has been some disturbing imagery and things I've looked at, and things that I don't want to have pop up out of nowhere. I want to be able, where possible, to warn you that things are going to come up. So on that note, again, we're going to be discussing some sensitive topics related to mental illness. We will not be going into them in detail, but I will be referencing them directly, but mostly in the context of this visual novel is about this thing, it includes these things, rather than any specific explicit description or anything like that. When we get into diving into things more deeply in like the bulk of the thesis, that's where things will become more graphic, because I will have to actually describe what occurs in the media. And again, when we get to that point, there'll be plenty of warnings. But yeah, so I had a look around, and I found so many visual novels. I was expecting to find quite a few. I did not expect, so I did maybe an hour on this, and I've got 25 from a really brief search. So what I did was I did some basic Google searches looking for things like visual novels about mental illness and games like Depression Quest and that sort of thing. I also then went onto the Lemmasoft forums, which is the RenP forums. RenP is an engine that people use to make visual novels, and that's their forums. So there's lots of people on there who are making games. There's lots of people on there recommending games, all sorts of things, and I found a whole bunch through there as well, including some that I just played through because this might be why it took an hour, and some that sound amazing and I'm really interested to play. Something I did notice whilst I was looking through these things is that there are so many about depression and anxiety. It was quite hard. I was making a point of trying to find other mental illnesses as well. I found a few related to psychosis and mania, but often like alongside depression and anxiety rather than as a focus unto themselves, which I thought was very interesting. Obviously there is a statistically a higher number of people who are depressed or anxious versus people who have something like, for example, schizophrenia, but I want to try and make sure that my sources represent a variety of viewpoints. I have actually found a couple that show dissociation. There's one, which one was it? It's actually a horror game. There were two. There's one called Multiple Capaciousness, which is a weird name, but that one is specifically showing dissociation and PTSD. Like, this is the level of game that I found. It wasn't just like, I mean, I found some that were also like, this person is a bit anxious, but there were so many of them that were like, I am a person with PTSD and I wrote this game to represent my experience. Like that one was, which is exactly what I'm looking for, right? And it made me very excited, and I had to stop myself playing all of them immediately. We will, when I get into this fully, we will be playing these games on stream. So yeah, so I went through a bunch of things. I found tons of examples, definitely enough to show me that there's plenty of primary sources available. The really interesting thing about looking through those forums as well is that people were often like, not full-on game developers, it was just a person who effectively had written a story, and they had just represented it that way, or an artist who had put it together, or teams of like writers and artists, but really small teams where they were producing it for the sake of producing it, not to tell that story rather than to make a game, as it were. Which I think like has a link to fan fiction, and like the intention behind the production of things is really interesting there. So that's definitely something to think about and something I want to note in this write-up. Then once I'd done that, I also then looked at like the theory behind visual and interactive novels, and that was really hard to find. And it was really hard to find because people use lots of different terms to describe visual novels, and even more to describe interactive novels. Those are the terms I'm using, but there's also, so visual novels have a strong Japanese origin, so obviously there's all the Japanese terms for it, which I'm not even going to try to say because I'll just mispronounce them, so there's no point. But I found, I think this article, which I can't show you because it's a lot of the articles I get access to, I only have access to from my library, my uni library, so I often can't show things on stream. But I found, what was this? Is this the one that had a different term? Or was it the other one? I found two articles basically about games themed around mental illness. Art games. There we go. That's the other term. I was like, I know it's something really, really obvious, but I don't know what. So yes, there's a lot of different terms. So I'm sure if I do like a longer search, a more intensive search, I will find other theory, but definitely there's nowhere near as much as there was for graphic novels or video games, or even fan fiction, to be honest. Which is not super surprising. I expected this to be the topic that had a lot less theory about it, because it's a very, like, basically every visual novel and interactive novel is an independent production. There are not many companies. There's like Telltale Games, and a couple of Japanese companies that you would consider like big enough that they're not independent producers of these kinds of games. But for the most part, the majority are little independent games that blow up. So yeah, I think that's something to mention as well, because that's the accessibility we were talking about earlier, right? It's one of those things that makes it, I think the more accessible a medium is, the closer it will get you to the person's embodied experience, because the less hurdles are involved in producing something, the less of that experience is going to fall away. If your novel gets edited a load by other people who don't share your experience, it's going to start modifying how that is shown. But it may also improve it, right? Like it's complicated. It's not a simple thing. but it's definitely enough to start writing up. So contrary to normal, which is me sitting here and having no idea how to start this, I do know that I have to start this bit in a particular way, which is I need to explain what the fuck a visual novel is. Because it's really, a lot of these other ones, obvious. Most people know what fan fiction is. Most people, you know what a graphic novel is, you know what a video game is. But I think it's very easy for people to have not heard of visual novels. It's actually easy to have not heard of artist books, but my supervisor happens to be one of the foremost researchers in the world on artist books, so I'm not going to have to explain to her what an artist book is. But in this instance, I think it would be good to start by explaining what visual novels are, what interactive novels are, and also why I've combined them into one and why they're not combined with video games, because that's another thing I've talked about before. So, it always does this. Players are presented with images, either static or sometimes animated. And the that was a terrible phrasing. May or may not be voice acted. Some visual novels are entirely linear. I can't type today. I can't type any day. I don't know why I'm limiting it to today. Some visual novels are entirely linear, the player or reader simply clicking through as they read. But many have an element of the interactive novel, also known as choose your own adventure. These are choices the player-reader must make. I'm almost tempted to hyphenate player-reader. Because I don't want to just say player, but I also don't want to just say reader because it's interactive too. I'm going to leave it like this for now. I'll have a think about it. The player must make, at pivotal points, choices that will shape the story going forward. In essence, these novels are a branching series of possibilities. There. I want to try and say that they feel limitless, but they're actually limited. Yeah, the many possible combinations of choice creating the appearance of limitless agency within a limited structure. Oh, that's good. I feel really embarrassed to have really liked a sentence I put together. Alright. I'm gonna have to keep that sentence now. That sentence is going in my actual thesis. The majority of the vast majority of visual and interactive novels are independently produced, either by single authors or by small teams. Many are built on game engines such as, is it RenP like that? I think it is. Oh, there's an apostrophe. There is a thing. Many are built on game engines such as RenP or Unity, which remove the need for coding skills so that even more people are able to produce these games. Texts. I'm not sure about calling interactive novels a game. No, it's REN''PY. It's a game engine specifically for visual novels. So basically, authors of visual novels only need to produce the images and the text, and then RenP helps them organize all of the like mechanics, basically, be that like just simple dialogue branches, or even like some games include like stats that you can increase that then have stat checks. Shout out to Long Live the Queen, the game that made me so angry because I kept dying on like the third day, just kept being assassinated. That's not a game about mental illness, it's just really hard. I would get like 3/4 of the way through the story, I think I was doing really well, and discover that I'd made an error like in the first few days, and because of that one thing I'd done, I couldn't win. Okay, so oh, that's okay, T. Thank you so much for being here and for chatting. It was lovely to meet you. And I'm here on Wednesdays and Fridays at 1 PM GMT. So it'll be lovely to see you again if you want to. I don't know. I don't remember what we're doing on Friday. I think that we might be. And thank you for the follow. Yeah, we might be doing some more write-ups then, depending on where I've gotten to. But yeah, thank you very much for being here, and I hope you have a lovely day. Okay. Many building. This means that the medium is even more accessible to those who wish to tell their stories. It is therefore unsurprising that a brief search yielded so many visual novels written to portray the author's experience of mental illness. By the way, you're gonna hear me like joyously say the words mental illness a lot because it's a weird, it's like that kind of gallows humor thing of being delighted anytime I find someone in media that's mentally ill. One, for seeing myself represented, but also then for seeing it be useful for my research. So obviously I'm not at any point excited that people also have to experience this. Thanks for the follow, Kylie. But I am pleased that it's useful to me. All right. Um, this initial scan revealed a strong weighting towards depression and anxiety. Oh, there's some good typing. I'm using the quieter flat keyboard, which is better. So I've got this beautiful Corsair mechanical keyboard, but it's quite hard on my hands, and my hands have been painful. So I've got this nice flat one, which is better, like for my hands. But they're not quite used to where everything is yet, and it's a smaller scale than my main keyboard. So I'm just not used to the action of the keys yet. I'm gonna get there. The initial scan revealed a strong weighting towards depression and anxiety, but also included texts focused on traumatic dissociation. And I'm going to actually cite the name of that one. Let me get that open. Actually, no, maybe I won't, because I don't know if I can reference the others as well. No, I can. No, I want to italicize the name. Thank you, Morris. What were some of the other ones? I know I had... No, that one was anxiety, but anxiety represented as... This one? Is this the one I'm thinking of? No, that one's anxiety as well. So many of them are anxiety. There we go. How do I describe this one? There should be some capitals there. I did try to put some capitals there. Okay. Perhaps the most famous interactive novel, which, as it includes images, can also be considered a visual novel, but it's not really. So it's not just Quinn, they had someone else writing it with them. Oh my god, there's a new fansplaining episode. Sorry. I got really excited. It's Patrick someone. Patrick Lindsay. Oh, EY. Released in 2013 on the web and 2014 as a game. Cool. In Depression Quest, the player attempts to get through life as a man with severe depression. It sucks. Because the game's brilliant. The game is brilliant, and playing it sucks. Right, I want to get a quote from... Do I want to mention the background of Choose Your Own Adventure novels? A genre developed from this 1970s series of children's book. There we go. Oh, cool, there's references in these articles to other articles. I'm sorry I can't show you the articles, by the way. I know it's a bit boring. I'm trying to find... Here we go. I'm trying to decide whether it's important in this write-up to mention the abuse that Quinn received. Also, this article... When was this article written? Because it's using the wrong pronouns for them. Nah. Oh, yeah, it doesn't actually define their gender. I've forgotten that. This article's a bit denser than I wanted. Yeah, this is a thing that I want to mention. Cleverly, the text displays but takes away certain options. I'm going to just... Oh, no, oh. I'm gonna paste a still from this game. Again, it is discussing depression and unpleasant experiences, so just to warn you that's gonna happen. I think it's pretty similar to what we've been discussing already, but just as a warning. Or I'm certainly gonna try and paste it. I'm gonna save the image. Then I'm gonna try and paste it. Can I do that? There we go. Such as in the image below, taken from the web version of the game. Also, I forgot the composer. That's a horrible sentence now, but I'm just going to leave it there. It's really long. I'm going to make this smaller, just for now. by both giving and restricting the player reader's agency. Depression Quest simulates the feeling of oh no, I'm just gonna use the word experience again. We need emotes for the words I use all the time. We need an emote for experience, an emote for embodied, and an emote for immersive. I don't have this many emote slots. I don't have any more emote slots, but by both giving and receiving the player reader's agency, Depression Quest simulates the experience of living with depression. Like video games and cryptically artist books, the need to select your way on gives a visceral connection between the player reader and their choices. Where is that? Oh, I might go find this in my history because there was a blog that I was reading. Oh, actually, here we are. Got it. There was a blog that I read earlier that had some other recommendations for games like. It was when I was searching for games like Depression Quest. And there was something. Oh no, it wasn't this one. It was cool. This one. I want to use this one as an example because this quote is so interesting. Okay. Okay. This can stimulate an intense emotional response. In writing about the game lie in part journalist. What is this journalist's name? Jennifer Allen. Does this have? Yes, cool. Thank you, websites that include the bios for your journalists at the bottom, because then it will have their pronouns in, and so I can always get them right. So really, it's a subtle little thing like that is super useful and super helpful. Okay. Described her experience of playing the game, which portrays the developer's experience of suicide. Oh, I'm gonna do the thing again. So the quote is, it's a tough game to play. I found tears came to my eyes very readily, not least because after making a series of difficult decisions, from figuring out how to approach telling your son what happened to looking back at past memories, you're confronted with a note from the developer telling you how many of the choices you made strayed from his original decisions. Essentially, that's a reminder that this really happened. At some point in the developer's life, they actually had to face these decisions for real. It's quite the gut punch. How amazing is that? That I want to play this game now. Not all visual and interactive novels reach through the fourth wall so overtly, but all that are written to convey the embodied experience, blah 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 blah. Do you ever sometimes feel like you want to just get through the like, I'm vegan, so this is a really weird metaphor, but like the bread of the sentence in order to get to the meat? And I'm just like, oh, I've got to put all these words in to say this one thing, even though it collectively makes up that, I don't know. They are written, all the time written to convey the embodied experience of the author, reach through it nonetheless. It is a ripe field for exploration in this vein, especially as this medium carries the power of interactivity. So another of our buzzwords, and thus the intensity of immersion. Many such games also incorporate sound into their, be it background music or voice acting, further adding, I'm just throwing all the buzzwords in here. Further adding to the multisensory experience. Oh, I can't spell experience anymore, despite it being like my most used word. Are we getting there? Okay, I'm gonna read through all of this because I want to see if it like works as a whole. Visual novels are a style of media that lies somewhere between. It could be lie or lies, I think I can agree with either. Somewhere between a written text and a video game. Players are presented with images, either static or sometimes animated, and the story is normally delivered primarily through text. These lines may or not be voice acted. Some visual novels are entirely linear, the player-reader simply clicking through as they read, but many have an element of the interactive novel, also known as Choose Your Own Adventure, a genre developed from a 1970s series of children's books. These are choices the player-reader must make at pivotal points, choices that will shape the story going forward. In essence, these novels are a branching series of possibilities, the many possible combinations of choice, creating the appearance of limitless agency within a limited structure. I'm so pleased with that sentence. It's such a good sentence. I don't know if reading this out is actually making it go in my brain. Hold on. Oh, thank you, Eddie. I've not been doing very well at that today. I've only had, this was full when I started, so I should have been doing better with it. Discussion of such games on the RenP forums. Lemmasoft included many people commending the authors on their trail of these sensitive topics and expressing both gratitude and greater understanding as a result of reading. It's weird to me that I'm going to be citing forums posts. think that's good. I think that's fine. I honestly can't think of anything else I wanted to include there. There might be more, but I mean, the whole point is that I've got time to do that later on, haven't I? And that was 800 words. 600 words? 600 words, or a bit over that. Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're done on that. If I move us over to Notion. This is all of the games I found, by the way. I found so many games. I'm really looking forward to them. I'm gonna go to the plan. And we're gonna tick off the write-up. Yay! We're gonna tick off the write-up and I'm gonna get rid of that. And we're gonna take us to here. And we're gonna talk about the rest of this week and next week, as I promised we would do. So I need to open my details for this week. All right, I've done all of those. I can tick all of those off. Cool. So I've done the thing. I can breathe. So tomorrow, I have mentoring as always, as I always do on a Thursday. I am going to, after that, do the critical reading exercise. I don't know what I'm going to be reading for it, but this is left over from the reading techniques training I did on Monday. So I'm going to do that then, partly as a distraction from the stress of my induction review at 3:30. As I talked about earlier, my induction review is not a formal thing. It's the first meeting with my whole supervisory team, who I know are lovely. It's not something I have to have stuff done for. It's all gonna be fine. But I'm very anxious about it. So I'm trying to just sort of focus on getting through one day at a time this week. And it's going well thus far. So we'll see. I'm sure it will be fine. And I'm sure on Friday I will come here and tell you that it was amazing and that I learnt loads and that I came away feeling so much better. But until then, I will just wait for that feeling to kick in. Yeah, so that's tomorrow. And then, so I've been sort of theming my days this week. So today is a research and writing day, obviously, because been doing this research. I'm going to a workshop after this, and then I'm going to a talk in the evening. If I've got spoons left, I might have run out of spoons by that point, but that's okay. We'll see how I'm doing. Yesterday was a healthcare and self-care focus day. Monday was like training and networking. Tomorrow I've called review and progress because it's got like mentoring and my review. And then Friday is another research and writing day. I'm in a workshop in the morning on accessing archives and collections, which I'm sure will involve some interesting advice on how one does that during COVID. Then we're going to do genre fiction stuff on the stream. So it might be that we manage to get genre fiction written up then, because actually I've done visual and interactive novels all in one day today. But I know the books I've got to read were taking me a bit longer to get into. So it might be that we do some reading on stream. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's the plan for this week. And then I'll only briefly go over next week because obviously on Friday we'll go into that in more detail. And also I need to go so I can have a break before this workshop. But It's sort of quieter and sort of not. We'll be using it to finish everything on this write-up with whatever's left. I'll be here Wednesday and Friday. I've got some other networking things going on. I have an empty Monday, which is so nice. I might just take it as if I get the the genre fiction stuff done on Friday, I honestly might take Monday off. And just have a 3-day weekend. We'll see. But yeah, so that's where we're up to, and what's going on. So I am going to leave it there, and I'm going to head off and get ready for this workshop. But thank you all so much for coming. It's been lovely we've met some new friends today, had some lovely discussions, and learned that I am the child of Emily Dickinson and Edgar Allan Poe, according to one person in the chat. Just chatting is a very strange category. But thank you all for coming. Thank you for being here. If you wish to hear more from me, then you can find me on Twitter, which the bot has told you about 5 times already. It's also in the panels below. If you want to support me right now, the best thing to do is to tell people that there's a person doing a PhD on Twitch, because that more people knowing that I exist is the best way to help right now. But make sure you're following, make sure you come and say hello, or lurk as you wish to do, on Friday at 1 PM. So I will say goodbye for now, and hope you have a lovely rest of your day. I hope you have a lovely Thursday, and I will see you on Friday. Bye.